Hey, welcome back to the Black Fathers Foundation. My name is Barry J. We are hosting another panel with fathers, and we have some authors, we have some artists, we have some folks that are building curriculums, we have some folks that are all over the place, and they are entertainers. So I want to make sure I welcome everyone. First of all, my man up there, up in the corner, Femi, the dry fish. What's good, brother? How are you today?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
Man, life is lovely, man. Life. I woke up this morning, so I am truly blessed. You know what I mean?
Always good to hear. Always good to hear.
Excellent, excellent. My next guest is Kenji from BKS Worldwide. How are you, man? What's good with you, man?
No complaints, brother. I'm blessed. Like you said, I woke up today, so all is well in this world.
Hey, look, man, you got the perfect like kind of pose for your chair right there. You got the little lean swagger and everything, man. I'm loving the flow, man. David, native son, what's good, man? How you feeling today?
Peace, what up, y'all? Thank y'all for having me on. I'm good.
Pleasure having you, man. Pleasure having you. Looking forward to the conversation. And last but not least, we already had some fun with this. David Miller, man. Sounds like money. What's good, man? How you feeling today, brother?
Absolutely outstanding, brother.
Excellent, excellent. So we're gonna get into this. The first thing, like for me, I know I'm a little off the cuff a little bit, but Femi, the dry fish, brother, you got to break that name down for me, man. So I know how, when, where, why.
I'm a writer, performer. Myself and David Ross, Native Son, are partners in a hip hop spoken word duo group. The Dry Fish, two backgrounds. Let me give you the first one. I am the man who could be dropped in the middle of the ocean yet not get wet, for I'm unlike no other. I stand out like a fish out of water, so they call me the Dry Fish. That's what I use on stage to let you know that I'm coming with something unique. I'm coming with something different, and I'm in my own box. The real explanation behind my name actually spawned from I moved from was born in London, England, and lived there till I was about 9 years old. And then I moved to West Africa, Nigeria, which is where my parents are from. Then moving here by the time I hit the ninth grade. When I moved here in the ninth grade, I came here in the summertime, but I guess Nigeria, West African heat, American heat in the summertime is just two different types of heat. And I just didn't sweat. Maybe I don't know. Maybe my glands weren't working properly, or maybe I had no idea. But I just wasn't a big. I didn't sweat much, And I would play outside all day long with my cousins in Virginia, and everybody would be dripping with sweat the entire day playing basketball, soccer, whatever, and I'd be bone dry. And my cousins actually nicknamed me Dry Fish, as a way to roast me, make fun of me, and I kind of kept it as a pen name, as an art name, and it became my moniker as I got older.
So you just owned it all the way, man. I love that. And man, look, and for my audience out there, that was not set up, man. That brother went just spit right off the top of his head. And David, native son, man. Look, since you're a part of the duo, oh man, Lice, I love that. Thanks, G. Give us your story, your side of it.
Oh man, that's nice. Who y'all paying that got well? So, so yeah, Native Son is a name I gave myself, but it spawns from me growing up performing or being out. People, wherever I would travel, go to perform, say, you remind me of someone, or someone would call, their relative over, be like, Janie, don't he look like Greg, little son? And that would happen all the time. And thankfully, it was always for something good, not like, don't that look like the dude that, what I mean, did something. So that's where Native Son came from. And also, pretty much wherever I go performing, like I like to feel like I was at home. So that's where it was from. A lot of people ask me, was it from the book Native Son by Richard Wright? But no, that's what I came up with, just from those things.
Excellent, excellent. And that was my question in my head. It was like, so is you getting that from the book or? But thank you for telling me your story. Kenji, what's up, brother? Tell me
Yeah.
about BKS Worldwide.
BKS Worldwide. So yes, I've actually had those letters, those initials since back in like 2001. BKS stands for Bringing Kids Success. As a former educator, I've always worked in the education sector, working with children. So whether it was an after-school program that I created or other aspects, the idea was to bring kids success. And then I became a certified personal trainer. And so those letters then were also used to represent building knowledge and success in the fitness and wholeness realm. But if my son has anything to do with it, he'll probably tell you that it stands for buying Caden sneakers. Because he has a lot of them. He's like his dad. We like fresh kicks. So it stuck with me.
Huh? That's cool.
Yeah, it stuck with me. And once I got it tattooed on my arm, I knew I had to keep it. So that's why it has dual meanings.
Excellent. David, look, I know you don't have no cool name like that. You just go by that money name, David Miller, so shoot, it works, man. But tell me about, I understand you're an author, man. So break that down for me, brother. What have you been doing? What are you authoring?
So again, man, I guess I need to come up with like a super cool name, like the rest of the brothers. But my story is real simple. I was a freshman at Morgan State. My best friend was at Morehouse. He had come home during summer vacation. We were on the west side of Baltimore. 3 young men tried to rob us. And because we didn't have the money they shot my best friend in the back with a sawed-off shotgun. So he died in my arms. I was 19 years old. I wasn't a crippled blood or gangster disciple. I was a young black male, growing up in West Baltimore. And so I really decided to turn my pain into passion and figure out a way to help black males and black men really succeed in a society that often shows us that they don't necessarily want us here. And so one of the first major projects that I developed was called Dare to Be King, What If the Prince Lives? And it's a survival curriculum designed to teach young black males how to survive, thrive, and heal in a toxic society. And one of the things that I started to realize, which was key to this, was this issue of literacy. And that if Michael can't read, life is going to be very difficult. And so when I looked at the landscape and really realized with both my own children and with the children that I was working with, that there were some huge voids in terms of children's books that had positive black characters, particularly positive black fathers and young people involved in just ordinary activities. And so I decided that I wanted to launch a series of children's books. And I was fortunate enough to connect with people like Kwame Alexander, Derek Barnes, Jerry Craft, all black men, New York Times, best-selling, children's book authors. And so I was able to really take a deeper dive into this children's book space.
Thank you for that. Excuse me. Thank you for that, Dave. That was that look, wasn't expecting that, and I want to flow this back over to Kenji because he's doing the same thing in the same space. And the question I want to ask both of you, and I'm gonna start with Kenji, is what was it? And David, I heard you say this, whether you weren't seeing the representation, and that's why you really wanted to get into it. Kenji, was it the same thought for you? You weren't seeing us. Is that why you wanted to kind of write children's books from our perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, for one thing, I can't really think of any books that I remember as a child growing up that I can pinpoint that were instrumental for me, particularly because, again, I couldn't see my reflection of myself in those books. And so that was one of the main reasons. But the other idea was just the ability to have some control over the narrative in what I'm putting out there for our youth, but also the ability to control those illustrations so that our young black boys and girls can see a reflection of themselves when they look in these books. And when there's a level of relatability, it's a lot easier to become excited about the literature that you're reading because you see yourself in its likeness. And so that was very, very important for me. But the number one motivation was my son. That's how I even got approached about writing any children's books, was by my brother and business partner, Hedrick McBride, who has actually published or written over 80 children's books with illustrations and characters that look just like us. And so that's my partner. 3 of my books are published by him, written by me, published by him. And he approached me about the idea because of the fact that when my son was born, you could see the scope on my social media page change, because I was talking about my son every day. Like, I was there when he was born. I fell in love. And, you know, he approached me. He said, you know, the way that you talk about your son is different, and you seem so proud. So maybe you should put pen to pad and reflect that in a book. And I wrote my first book and became addicted to the concept and the idea. And now I'm 3 books in and working on my 4th.
Wow, congratulations on that, man. Congratulations. Now, I got to ask this from the group. And Femi, I'm going to start with you. As a writer, because all of you are writers, what would you say to that person or that young brother that's out there that's has just a pad, like literally a pad full of just stuff that he's been writing, but doesn't know the next step? Like, you guys were fortunate enough to be around the right people to kind of push you in the right direction. So if we have some young brothers out here listening right now or watching us right now, what do you say to them to get started? Because a lot of that's just in their head and on their pad, and they don't know what the next step is. What advice would you throw out there to them?
For me, you know, I do get a lot of those questions from young writers and, you know, older writers, that people have been older than me that just have been collecting their writings majority of their life. And some of it is, I think everyone's story is unique. And I'm about to say something real sci-fi-ish, like time travel. When we think about time travel, we think about, oh, I'm a change. You know, let me get it right. In time travel, every moment in time is very unique. Every pebble, every drop of water, you move one little thing and it upsets the entire time stream in some form, some way. You know, and that's how I see, like, individuals. You know, we all have our unique stories. They all might sound the same, but they're all very unique stories, and you never know that your story might influence or change someone's life in a positive way. You know, and it even goes the opposite way too. Like, but I feel like everyone's story is important to tell. You know, so if you're writing, whether it's your personal story or it's fiction, whatever it is, I feel like it's important to share. And it doesn't have to be through performance. It could be within books. It could be, even if it's just, you know, you counsel with your brothers or your sisters. I feel like all those things are really important, just to share and tell. So I just encourage everyone to just allow their words to at least meet someone else.
Dave, native son, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you know, I agree with Femi. I think, but I also think that it depends on what you want to do with it and where you like to go. Because to be a professional writer and that's its own animal. To be a professional performer is its own animal, you know. And so there are things that come with those pathways to be prepared for. So if a young writer wants to go that route, I would offer them some of the things that I've learned along the way, which has significantly changed. You know, Femi and I, we just released a new EP album, and even the landscape for that. Like, young people are probably much more savvy than Femi and I are with technology, with getting it out. But when we were coming up, it was things like getting, you know, starting off, putting a copyright on your material. You want to get it, you know, registered at the Library of Congress, like owning your stuff, putting a stamp on it officially. That would be the first step in my mind to direct them to know that your words have value. And like Femi said, like sharing it. And one of the things we used to tell students when we were teaching creative writing workshops is we would ask them who their favorite artist is, who is their favorite writer. And then imagine if they never came out, if they decided to not share their work. If Stevie Wonder said, I don't know if it's good enough, you know what I mean? And we would have never heard any Stevie Wonder songs, you know. They could be that next thing, or they are that thing right now. So to believe in themselves and offer our support any way we can, I think that's the thing. But I would direct them to do a little bit of research on how to get your stuff registered to maintain ownership of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And before we go any further, I just want to let our folks out there that are watching us, feel free to send us your questions. If we get too many, I'll try to get to as many as possible. But we do love the fact that we have viewers watching, and if you do have questions, make sure you send them in. We're on Facebook right now and YouTube, so primarily Facebook. Send those to us, and we'll make sure that these gentlemen can get a chance to answer them. Let me jump over to Kenji.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, as a writer, what I would suggest to anybody out there is to just write, to start. I found very early on in the writing process that this idea of trying to organize my writing as I was writing it was a complete disaster. I would come home from work with this idea that I was going to sit down and write for 2 hours. And at the end of 2 hours, I had like 2 sentences written down. All three of my books were written at times when they probably shouldn't have been written. Back when I was an educator, there was a lot of times where, the kids would be in the middle of doing some independent work and something would come up to me and I'd be at my desk jotting notes down in a notebook. I didn't have anything in order. I had notes in a laptop. I had notes in an iPad. I had notes on a notebook. And then later on, once I was done and I got everything down, then I could focus on the organization part of it. But another thing that I want to say to those that are interested in these arenas is you have to really ask yourself, what is your primary mission and goal for writing or getting into these industries? Because if the primary reason is because this is just a thing that you think is going to make you money, then you got to really reassess what your intentions are. And I'm sure my colleagues are laughing, and I know why. Like that, and I'm not in any way saying that you can't be profitable as an author or in these other areas, but that can't be the motivation behind what you're doing. A lot of times, if you are authentic and sincere about what it is that you're putting out there in terms of the product, if you're lucky, the money's going to come anyway, right? I definitely didn't write 2 and 3 books because my first book retired me. That's not how that worked. I wrote it because I had a passion for getting this information out and giving our children an ability to open up a book and see themselves and see messages that are written from a father using his son as a vessel to relay that message. And so again, before you even get into it, you got to ask yourself, what's your mission? If your mission is based on, ordered steps and that you're trying to accomplish something that's for the betterment of the people that are going to be impacted by your work, then I say by all means, go for it.
Excellent. Thank you. Did I miss? Oh, David Miller.
Man, I was enjoying sitting back listening to to all of the wisdom. I mean, again, man, books have the capacity to save lives. I don't know if you guys can see this. One of the books that I wrote, which was illustrated by Jerry Kraft, I created this story about a little boy named Khalil. He is an 11-year-old math genius. He's a master chess player, but he was being bullied and picked on in school because he was so smart. And we've been fortunate to sell, again, self-published book. We sold over 25,000 copies. I can't tell you guys the number of teachers and parents and students that have reached out to me who were dealing with bullying to the extent where they considered literally taking their own life. Mm-hmm. But someone gave them a copy of Khalil's Way. They read the story about how this super smart 11-year-old quirky kid with all of these food allergies who was ADHD, he figured out a way to deal with the bullies. And as a result of that, this particular book has literally saved lives. And so for those writers out there, what you have the ability to put on the pages of books can literally dramatically change people's lives. And so I just think it's really important that we need to share narratives about life, about family, about fatherhood, about manhood, about boyhood, about girlhood, about womanhood. Because y'all, we can't wait for the major publishing houses to tell our story.
How about it?
Yo, that's so. It's funny that you're talking about Khalil, and you made me think about Marvel Comics when they came out with the new young Black Spider-Man. And that was like a thing for a minute because, it was like I grew up on Peter Parker, but I was excited to see and hear that they were using a person of color in that role. And I watched it from afar, and I've read a couple of them, because I don't get to read like I used to. You read those books like I used to, but when I hear you talk about a Khalil who is, on a level where he's normally above everyone else, but then he's trying to navigate. I love hearing those stories, and I think about so many times where children don't have that community or that pod where they can kind of hover together. So my question to you guys is, how do you create the community of where folks know to come and be comfortable in that space? So not everybody who is a writer, that sometimes they're a quiet writer, you might just see them in their room only, but they haven't come out of their shell. So how do you let them know that it's okay to, like a Khalil, to come out of that kind of that shell and find a community that will help them thrive?
I'll take a jab. Um, well, first of all, I think that as a writer and a performer, my where it comes from is, for me, is that moving from Nigeria with a British accent to America definitely did not play in my favor in America at all. Like Baltimore City did not play in my favor. Did not play in my favor at Walbrook Senior High School in 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. Like, it was not in my favor at all. It stood out. I didn't understand the culture of, like, the early 90s was about like gear. You had the fresh shoes, you had the fresh clothes, and all those things was not something I just, in Nigeria, you just have to have clothes. If you had shoes, that was also awesome. So my writing spawns from not fitting in, not fitting in, and being ridiculed for not fitting in. I grew up. I still collect comic books to this very day. It's cool now, but trust me, when I was doing it in middle school, in high school, post high school, it's frowned upon. Like, yo, you still hold on the childish things, but these were things that I saw refuge in because of me being unable to fit into spaces. But I feel like I perform and I present myself as an artist as it's okay to not fit in, but you have to be strong in that. Because I remember the ninth and 10th grade where I wasn't strong in that. And when I was and mind you, I'm 6'4" now. My high school experience, I did not hit 6 foot. I was pretty small in high school. And I remember my ninth and 10th grade not being secure in myself, and not being secure in myself made me target practice and made me target. By 11th grade, 12th grade, I finally didn't care anymore. I wasn't pressed to be a part. And for some reason, atmosphere-wise, aura-wise, no one bothered me anymore. They gave excuses for the things, they gave excuses for me for the things I was ridiculed for earlier. And I learned from that moment that, it's when you're wearing the insecurity that they zoom in on you. They zoom in on you, and I as an artist, I like to present myself. If you ever see me do my show with my band, I'm like in total. I wear a top hat. I'm a suspenders guy. I'm completely out there, wild out with my rock band. Even with David, I still am out there. But it's I'm here to model. It's okay not to fit. It's okay not to be the cool guy. It's okay not to be the smooth guy. It's okay not to be the guy that's flashing money. It's okay as long as you own it and you sure that's you. Let that be you, you. Don't try to perpetrate as something else. Own who you are. Embrace it and find your avenue, whether it's writing, performing, dancing, whatever it is, whether you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever it is, but be secure in you and how you present who you are in any environment. So I don't know if I answered your question, or I
Oh
just
yeah, you
vented.
answered my question, brother. You answered. Look, I'm over here like, man, yeah, that's right. Dave, I see you over there throwing a
Yeah,
fist up
man.
too, man.
Yeah, man. Femi, he always lay it down. But like to his point, I will also say like what he just did. So eloquently. One of the biggest foundations we have or blueprints to show that is the Black church, and that's where we got to see a lot of talent, come out of that and go so many different places throughout the world. And so now we're in 2020, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the Black church, St. Kitts Church to do it. how we used to do things, but that blueprint of having a space, a community to fellowship. And it's not just about youth, it's not just about elders, but it's a mix of ages and wisdom and freshness and all of these things together, a fusion to, or just this opportunity of welcoming. And I think that's what a lot of open mics do for people. And I haven't been to an open mic in a while, but I remember when I was coming up, like it was a space where it was okay to just get on and express, especially here in Baltimore City. I was fortunate enough to be around folks who they encouraged it. And some folks would make fun of poets because everybody would get a clap, I mean, no matter how bad you were. But it was just that little bit of encouragement that some folks needed, you know. So I think having spaces that are not only rec centers for youth, but other spaces, cafes or places they can hang out in the evening. You know, 8, 9 o'clock, they can get dressed and go fresh. For those kids that's out there anyway, to go like, yo, I'm about to go get on the mic here. You know, this place is open. You know, they got food that they're selling. They're playing music, they DJing, and they got an open mic set somewhere for young people to just be in that space, you know, and also have adults supporting and guiding that, you know. So that's my feelings on it.
I love that because one of the restaurants in where I live in the Prince George's County, DC area, Busboys and Poets, they promote that where
Mhm.
you can come in and do spoken word and just Dave, just exactly what you just said. And David Miller, let me hear from you, brother.
Hey, brother, I was at Bus Boys and Polish yesterday. I was sitting outside, though, so, but
Right,
anyway,
right,
no,
right, right.
I mean, I just think that the black community is thirsty for black arts, whether it's poetry, whether it's music, film, and I just think that even prior to COVID and prior to the incidents of George Floyd and some of these other incidents that are occurring sadly too frequently, is that again the black community is just thirsty for the arts, and I think that we have a responsibility to take our artistic body of work to the next level, because I really believe that the consumer base wants it. And I think one of the ways that we do that is by using social media to build communities. I mean, the only reason why I'm on social media is not to talk about I just went to Taco Bell or my feet hurt or some of this other nonsense, but it's to build communities that can empower and strengthen the black community. I mean, again, when you look at like the Harlem Renaissance, you know, you really begin to think about what came out of the Harlem Renaissance, whether it was music, whether it was poetry, whether it was writing. I mean, just you know, this conglomeration of arts, but with a strong level of black consciousness. And I just think that that's needed so much now more than ever. But one of the things that I'll say to the listening audience is, um, folks got to support black arts and black entertainment and the black literary tradition. I always tell people there's so many dope black children's book authors. You don't have to go to Scholastic or some of these other major brands. They're brothers and sisters in the community that are churning out amazing children's books. There are amazing artists in the community, and we just got to better support so we can be around.
I love that, David. I want to actually touch on something that you just said. Thirsty for arts, thirsty for black arts. And Kenji, I want to actually direct this to you. I want you to start this off for us. When you hear that, and because I agree with you, David. I mean, like I'm in this space now where if I needed a T-shirt or something, I might back when I was younger, I would go to Foot Locker or go to someplace get me a Nike T-shirt. But now my thing is, I want to give my money back to my community. So every T-shirt I wear, I find somebody that a brother, sister that basically says, this is my T-shirt, this is what I'm doing. So every time I'm doing a show, I have one of their T-shirts on, and that's kind of my thing of saying that's what I want to kind of direct this to. So Kenji, to you, do you agree with that thirst for arts, for black arts? Are you seeing that as your book is going out, or your books are
Absolutely.
going out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's apparent and evident. What Brother David Miller said is true. And I get to see that when, pre-COVID, when I was doing these school visits. I'm stationed in Baltimore, but I actually travel up and down the East Coast. And because I'm from New York, I have a lot of connections in New York where I get to travel home and go to some of these schools. And when you walk into these schools, these kids make you feel like you are this big time famous person. They look at you almost like you're larger than life because you are actually there in the flesh. You look like them. They can relate to you. And you're doing things that they have interest in. And that's when I see a lot of our kids start to express. If I had a dime for every time a student said to me, well, I write, or, I was thinking about doing this, and they start asking questions, when they see me, it lets them know that it's possible, that it's tangible, that it's something that they can actually accomplish. And so I totally agree with David from the realm of the fact that absolutely that there's a thirst for those arts coming from us. And David also talked about supporting each other. And what you said is very key. You talked about T-shirts. I have this polo shirt on with my little BKS logo on it. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I have on anything with my fitness logo or this logo, or if I'm wearing, to your point, one of my boys, I got a bunch of brothers, Republic of Great Men, LRL. I got a bunch of brothers that do their own clothing lines. My brother Dewan just released a shirt called Been Essential. I bought one in every color. And to be honest with you, I feel great when I have those things on because I know what it represents. I feel much, much better wearing those things and wearing my own stuff than wearing somebody else that I can't relate to and I can't touch. So it's important. And it's important that we continue to sow among each other and stay connected and support each other.
Excellent. I want Femi and David to chime in on that because I know you guys are a duo. So are you seeing and feeling the thirst as well? And give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, I was a kid of the 80s growing up. My hero at that time was Michael Knight from Knight Rider. That's who I looked up to. That's who I wanted to be. It wasn't anybody else on TV. I had him, TJ Hooker, the Duke boys. We looking at the Confederate flag every week. That's what we were doing. What I mean? It would have been nice. It would have been nice to have. Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying, Barry, David. You know what I'm saying?
Michael Knight was the man.
He was the man. I'll still be watching them reruns. Get your little leather jacket, But
Flip it up.
The thing about it is, like, we didn't have that. So to see Kenji writing, to see David writing characters that represent us and they're authentic and more realistic to who we are. To see brothers like our brother Jason Reynolds writing books for teens. With people who they're not only showing images of people who look like us, but the people who are producing the stuff look like us. People get on Tyler Perry. I'm not the biggest Tyler Perry fan, but I respect his grind, what he's built, the empire. He's a black man that's doing this. Our Jay-Z's, all of them, they're doing it on much higher levels, but even within just the industries of us just getting behind the camera, there should be more than one Spike Lee. There should be more than one John Singleton. We should play these guys up too, And I remember when Obama came president, I feel like this is one of the things that, white racists didn't think about really. Like, and I feel like this is my personal opinion, why I feel like they had to go way left and get Trump, is because when Obama got elected, my son is 13 years old. So every kid 13 and under in his age group, all they ever knew was a black family running the country, up until he was 8 years old, and that goes for black kids, white kids, Asian, Indian, wherever you're from. If you was from this country, you saw a black family at the head of this country, and I think that spoke volumes. And so to erase that out of everyone's minds, these kids coming up, that's my feeling on it, because they know how important imagery is, and Obama wasn't an entertainer, So even outside of the arts, we need more engineers. We need more just visibility. You know what I mean? If you're a dentist, if you're in tax preparation, if you if you're a guy or a woman in the stock markets, you know, we need more of that imagery, not just the imagery, but people behind the scenes dictating how this thing should go, but to at least represent who we are.
Well said, brother. Well, Femi, jump in there, man.
Wow, I'm a co-sign David 100% on that. I'm gonna add something. I'm not sure if it's gonna be controversial or not, but even when I think about Black representation, sometimes I feel like it needs to be more subtle. It needs to seem very normal for us. I feel like when we project it really hard, sometimes I feel like we're surprised to see it. We're surprised. We're like trying to let you know we are here in a way that it seems like we're not supposed to be here. And I'm like even when I think about, you know, like people, sometimes I get complimented. You know, my son's 16 now, so he's old and got a gray beard and everything now. But you know,
you feed that joker, man.
but I remember I made a big point. You know, I don't have the best relationship with my father at all. You know, but I remember that by the time my son showed up, you know, my son's mother and I were in a very rocky place anyway, before we conceived, during the conception, after conception. And, you know, we're in a much better place now, but we're not together. And when he was an infant, I made a point that I didn't give birth to my son. So my natural connection has to be something I have to really infuse. And I'm saying all this to say that I walk around my infant son. I walk around my toddler son. And a lot of people, you know, people will see me in the supermarket or see me out around that time. I'm performing, doing shows. My son's strapped to my chest. I got a mic in my hand, rocking the crowd. And folks will try to overly compliment me like I'm doing something amazing. And in my head, I'm like, nah, this is regular. This is regular work. This regular. It's just unfortunate you haven't seen it. And I like to be a model in that fashion where just show up and do so it looks normal. Look normal doing it, because I don't need a flag or a pat on the back. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I have a son, you know, and because we were sharing time with my son equally, we weren't together. I made sure that if I have stuff to do, I got studio, I got band rehearsal, I got to hook up with David and meet with him. Sometimes I had workshops in schools, and I didn't have my son in daycare for at least 2 years. So he went with me pretty much everywhere if I had to be somewhere, you know, but and the weird thing about it, the inspiration came from seeing Erykah Badu on tour with her children. And seeing that, I'm like, well, I don't breastfeed, so that's the one thing I can't do. But outside of that, I can do everything. So, you know, and I say that because we're so, you know, like being a man, and this is about some man talk. Being a man, I feel like we tend to just say it's the woman's job, and we find a way out of it. And because we find a way out of it, we have a hard time connecting and being accountable and being responsible and being dependable. And it ends up being a chore for us. And I don't think it should be a chore. But once again, no matter what it is, if we're Black and we're doing it, just do it. I don't always feel like we have to announce what we're doing. Just do it. People see it as normal. Therefore, it's going to be normal. Let's not act like surprise. It's 2020. Just keep doing it. Whatever it is, keep doing it and encouraging your brothers, your uncles, your partners to keep doing it and showing up. All right, I'm done.
Hey, look, I don't want to talk after Femi no more. All right,
right.
No, like no more. And
this is every day, bro. Every day.
It's
every day.
It's so dope to hear someone convey that message the way that you did, Femi, because I have such a similar literally everything that you just said about the experience prior to your son being born, and then after, I experienced the exact same thing. And I agree with you. I remember early after my son was born, I was with him in Walmart pushing the stroller with the seat inside the stroller. And to your point, it was crazy the type of looks that I was getting. Like, I was the man for like 10 minutes. And it was a look from some people that was like, oh, okay, that's dope. Look at this father and his infant son. But then the other look was people looking around like, there's no way this dude is in here without the mother. Like, there's no way. Like, there's no way he's in there with a baby that young and that mother is not somewhere in this store. And again, like, getting credit for doing what we're supposed to be doing is crazy to me. I appreciate it. but it speaks to the fact that there's not enough visibility when it comes to those stories. That what Femi just talked about, and that picture that he painted about how he was, out here rocking, doing whatever he needed to do with his son right with him. That's not talked about enough. It's not. It's the other side of that coin that's talked about a lot. And the reality is, it's talked about more by us than them.
Indeed.
Especially on these social media platforms. And so part of the reason why I partnered up with my three other brothers, Stephen, Glenn, and Sherman, for our conglomerate, Dope Dad 101, was to change the narrative, to start going into these communities and letting them see that Black men, we're present. And if you do your research and if you look at the data, right now today, the Black father is more involved and more active in their children's lives than any other race. But when they talk about absentee fatherism, they don't speak mostly about why. They don't speak to the fact that a lot of times that's due to incarceration, untimely death, poverty. Those are a lot of the reasons why our children are being raised without their father. Not to say that there aren't men out there that have chosen not to be involved, because there are, but we got to stop focusing on the negative and start speaking to the positive at a more accelerated rate, if this narrative is going to change.
Yeah, thanks for that, fellas. I mean, let me comment. So John McCrae just commented, agree. Black heroes or leaders are needed in the community. Some serve as mentors as well. That's like when they see us dressed up in suits. Even at work, they assume there is an interview or you're going somewhere other than work. It must become normalized. It is so true when you're talking about that representation. And I had that same story where I was out with at the time, she was a year and a half old, and then a newborn. So I had two. So I'm in a restaurant. My wife is actually, look, we flipped the script. I stayed home with the babies for a few while she went out in corporate America and did her thing. And we went out to a restaurant. Now I'm managing. I got one with a bottle and another one I'm feeding. And I can feel everybody looking at me like, well, where's his wife? Where? Man, I got this. Look, don't worry about that. I got this. So, yeah, I really would love for you to talk about changing the narrative, because don't congratulate me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not something I want a badge of honor for. I want to be able to say I was there, because I remember being in corporate America, and then when this never forget him, older white guy. He was like, I'm retiring early because I want to spend time with my grandchildren, because I don't know my kids. I don't know them. Now, he had a successful business. He was a nice book of business, but he was like, look, I'm retiring early because I don't know my kids, but I want to know my grandkids.
Wow.
And this is from a white guy. So it was it's funny how they see us where we're not at home with our children, but they go to work every day and then still come home and still don't spend any time with their kids. And I also
And,
want to go back to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
Who was that?
I just want to add. I mean, this is the reason why sharing these narratives is so important. Because just like the brothers on the line, I have a similar story to some degree. My oldest is 24, my youngest is 15. I've worked from home for 20 years because in my household, me and my wife made the decision that I was going to go the entrepreneurial route. So I've been an entrepreneur over 20 years and have been home with my children. I mean, a lot of people used to call me like a house husband, whatever the case may be. And I think when you look at the data, when you look at the census data, there is an increase in the number of like single dads that are home. And so there's a lot of shifting going on in terms of the fatherhood space. But as the brother indicated, when you look at the data, the 2013 CDC report indicates that Black fathers are more involved in child rearing, whether it's bathing, homework, taking the after school programs, pickups, that statistically Black dads are more involved than any other racial group. But we got to celebrate it. We got to talk about it. And we got to continue to encourage brothers, because oftentimes I find there's a lot of fathers who just don't necessarily know how to be a dad. They didn't have a blueprint. They didn't grow up where they had an opportunity to watch other dads. And so we got to do a better job of, instead of demonizing these dads who may not pay the child support or who may not visit as regularly, we need to really support them through our writing, through our music, through our poetry, because I've never met a dad that didn't want the best for their child, but I've met a whole lot of dads that didn't necessarily have the skills and the confidence around whether or not they could be a good father.
So true. So true. So true. And it's now you have me with this narrative of part of the things you guys are doing with your books are showing fathers and sons, right? And showing how those relationships work. So talk to me a little bit about your different projects where that connection is being made, because clearly, if you don't have that example, I was truly lucky. I had a hell of an example, and my pops showed me the way, and I am trying to be better at it than he ever was because that's what he wanted for me. But I also know that his father wasn't around, so he didn't have the blueprint. He just said, you know what, this dude, these my two sons will want for nothing, and I will be there forever. So tell me about your projects and how fathers and sons are being grouped in or narrated.
All right, I'll actually go, being that the title of my first book is actually called Father to Son. And so the concept behind this book, and it's kind of unfortunate that when I'm at book fairs, I have to constantly explain to the mothers that this book is not just for boys, just based on the title. But what it is me as a father using my son as a vessel to carry a message out to the youth. And so each of my books have either 5 or 4 short stories in them, and they happen to rhyme. So it's only 10 stanzas, 20 sentences, vivid, bright illustrations. Every time I go somewhere, don't nobody care about the words in the book. They just care about they always want to know if I'm the illustrator. The illustrator gets all the credit. But in this book, Father to Son, I'm harping on 5 key core values or principles that are important to me. So the first story in this book is called Love Your Mother. And it's me talking to my son and to other children about why it's important to cherish, respect, and honor the person that gave you life. And then I also talk about the importance of education and the doors that it can open for you being educated and educating yourself. And then the other 3 values in here are respect, not only giving respect, but what it means to demand and earn respect, manners, how you conduct yourself and how you carry yourself. And then lastly, teamwork, but not just in the sense of athletics, but what it means to be a part of a team as a child or as youth. So when you're in a classroom and you're assigned to a group project, you're a part of a team. When you're home, you're a part of a team at home. You have a responsibility to keep your room clean. And, you know, if you're a young man, you should be taking out the trash and not leaving that to your mom or your sisters to do. And so that was the thought process behind my first book. And then I took it a step further and came out with part 2. This is where I actually introduced my son as a character. And here in this book, we're addressing different fears that a lot of our kids may experience, whether it's going to the barbershop for the first time and getting a haircut and being afraid of the clippers, or transferring to a school in the middle of the school year and that fear of leaving your friends behind and having to start brand new in a new environment with new people, having a bad dream, going swimming. And what I love most about my books, as I said earlier about the creative control, the people in my books are real people. So I don't know if David knows because he went to Morgan. I'm pretty sure, you know, our circle is very similar, but I use real people in my books. So there's a barbershop on Harford Road called Now Style. One of my mentors, Brother Chanel Shakur, and he has his own section in this book. That's exactly what his barbershop looks like. So we're talking about when I talk about relatability and our kids being able to see real live people that they can touch, you can see this brick and mortar building right on the corner of Harford Road and Northern Parkway, Now Style Barbershop. And he has his own section in here, and he's his own character. That's actually Chanel right there with the glasses. Looks just like him. And he's cutting my son's hair and working him through the fear of not being afraid of those clippers. And so as David said, David Native Son said, this is an opportunity for me to use my skill set to get it out there to the masses and encourage and support other students. So being a father was the vessel for me to do that.
Excellent. Love that. Love that. Femi, you look like you about to roll, man. What you about to do, brother? What you about to do?
I'm,
I
I'm,
saw
I'm,
the face, right?
I'm taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. I think that's it's funny because I realized that that's not a conversation. I remember, so I used to cut my son's hair, and I'm no barber, but I used to cut my son's hair probably up until maybe about 5 or 6 before I started taking him to a barbershop. So just something as simple as having a haircut, I haven't even thought about that until Kenji just threw it back. I was like, oh, that's right. I had to take him to a barbershop, and he was afraid, So it just reminded me that there are these things that you just do, but you don't think about. And you do have to coach a child through. I can only imagine what a mother has to do with a daughter when she first does her hair, because I know there's a lot of pulling and twisting that really tenderizes the scalp. I'm sorry.
Femi,
What was
can
the
you see
original
my face?
question? I
Can you
feel like
see
I
my
just
face, brother? Can you
I
see my
can't
face?
I can't even see your face right now.
Can you see my face, man? Look, show my face, G, because you just said something about those daughters and that hair and the pulling and the stretching. Because I'm telling you, man, that is look, those are one days I'm like, okay, I gotta stay in the house because man, my wife might kill these little girls, man, the way they going off right now, man. So I just gotta stay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's daddy's right here. And you're spoiling them. You know what? That's my job to spoil. I want them to know daddy's there for them, But no, the
But
question.
those are things that you don't ever think about, and the joy of writing. The joy of writing is being able to magnify very simple things and make them magnificent. And that's writing. That's the joy of it, you know.
It is.
And that's and to me, I tell young people all the time, it's not whether you can write about the struggle or when your heart was broken or when you found love, but if you're able to write about something really mundane and simple and make it something very very relevant, that's the mark of a great writer. That's the mark of a great writer. Mind you, everything else, when you're writing about the struggle, when you're writing about your heartbreak or falling in love or whatever, those things are very relevant. But if you want to really test your skills as a writer, find something simple that no one thinks about, because it's so everyday. It's so something that happens all the time. Write about a snowflake. Write about a leaf as it wanders down from the tree to the ground. Like, make those simple things magnificent. Make a haircut. Make a haircut. Seem just him mentioning it. Now I have to read the story, because just him mentioning it made me go, damn! I remember those stories. Really,
Read the story.
like I'm juiced off of that right now, because that I remember that moment. Like, oh man, I haven't thought about it. But that's really what it is. I haven't thought about it until Kenji just mentioned it. I haven't thought about it. That's how magnificent. Just him breaking it down. I haven't even read the book yet. Now I have to read the book. I have to read the book. So
We all have to read the book.
We all have to read the book. Shoot. The whole community. We got to like we get in the book.
Yeah, this is the next bestseller right here. Yeah, you read that. Gotta read that, son.
That's hilarious. And look, I got a comment here. So, Miss Keisha Marie, thank you for commenting. I remember going to one of my prenatal appointments. The doctor was in and immediately asked, "Where's the father?" Being that I was 21, I am sure she assumed he was not around. It was the one and only appointment he missed because he was at work. The doctor was a black woman.
Mm.
It's funny how we even mess up our own narratives, right?
I remember going to as my son's mother and I were looking for a pediatrician for my son, and I would X as we were shopping around any doctor that did not communicate with me. Also, I was like, nah, we're not dealing with you. Anyway, most times they did not communicate with me. They did not communicate. They would communicate with her, and I just had to be there. And I was like, nah, we're not dealing with that. I need to be included in the conversation. I need to be included. And we ended up dealing with my son's first pediatrician was a lady all the way out in Owens Mills, and I didn't have a car at that time. I used to, and then when you get off the bus, it was probably another like maybe 15-minute walk, and I would just lug my son to the pediatrician, you know. But I needed to make sure I was included in that conversation.
That's real.
That's real.
That's a real thing.
I can feel what Keisha's saying. I actually got myself in trouble at work because throughout the process of my son before my son was born, I didn't miss any of his appointments, like any of them. I made a point to go to those appointments and support his mom as she went through that pregnancy. And to this day, I try not to miss any of his appointments. And I remember being called into the office by my principal. And she said something to me that I'll never forget. She said to me, you know, I appreciate that you want to be there for your son, and you don't, you know, you're taking off a lot of time to go to these appointments. But his mom is there. So like, I don't understand why she said this to me. I wish I could see y'all face in reaction to what I'm about to say. But she said to me, like, I don't understand why you feel the need to also be there and jeopardize work when she's there. And I don't work there anymore. And I don't work there anymore because I speak my mind. And I think at the door. But I looked at her, and first thing I said to her was, do you have any kids? No, you got a dog. Okay, moving on. Real talk. Real talk. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Real talk. I said this. And then what I said to her was, I said, look, it doesn't matter if she's able to be there or not. That's my son, just like it's hers. He has two parents, and I want to be in the know as well. And what I love about Caden's mom is that she has her own thought process and her own way of thinking. So when she's in an appointment and I'm not there, there may be things that she may not ask or she may not catch that I will, and vice versa. We support each other. We're a team. So it's my responsibility to be there as well. It's not up to her to shoulder all of those appointments by herself. And so I didn't miss any, and I don't plan on missing any. And so I can definitely relate to that, what Keisha Marie said.
Wow, it's funny you said that, because I know from corporate America, when I was putting in 50, 60 hours plus pre my babies coming along, and then when my babies came along, it was like, oh, y'all get me from 9 to 5, man. And I knew the game. I knew the game of, if you got there early, the big bosses saw you, so they were happy. If you stayed late, the big bosses saw you, so they were happy. But when I got there with everyone else, oh, your work seems to be suffering. No, you're not seeing me as much, because guess what? My priorities have shifted, have changed, and my family's my number one responsibility. Yes, I need to keep a job, but that means I need to get a different job. If your leadership skills are not where you're following me, and you're worrying about my time, I'm giving you everything I have. Before, I was giving you plus, but now you see me just give you just what you want. Now you're upset with me. So needless to say, as to point out what Kenji was saying, I speak my mind a little bit too much too. So it's the reason why I'm on the entrepreneur world at this point, you know. But look, gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much for spending this time with us. I enjoyed the conversation immensely. I feel like we need to do another one. We're going to talk to Matt with the Black Fathers Foundation to see if we can get another one set up, because I feel like we can go further. Because number one, you want to talk about that whole Michael Knight thing. You know who my first black dude that I was like, that's the man, Mr. T right there, man. It was like, man, like, there I am. Shoot. That was my first man. I was like, okay, now I can see me. You know, I don't have the muscles like him, and I don't with the pro hawk like them. Right? Exactly. Look, we're gonna close it out with Femi the Dry Fish and David Native's son. Greg G, let me know when you're ready to do that. But I want to thank each and every one of you for participating today. I want to say, I want our folks that are watching to catch your video so they know exactly who you are. Kenji, look, I think I'm looking at the tread, man. You already sold a couple of books done, bro. So David Miller, you next, man. I know you flash their books up. We're going to make sure everybody knows where to get your books. This has been enjoyable. Gee, let me know when you can take us out, brother, because I'm looking forward to this. And thanks for letting us know about this, Femi.
Oh, thank you.
Nice meeting you guys. David, good to see you, man.
Good to see y'all, man. Be safe.
Yeah,
it's good to see you. Good to see Dave. Kenji, it's a pleasure meeting you, man.
Yeah,
Kenji, I'm gonna holler at you.
We got to connect.
For sure.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm getting the book.
Oh, my man. I'll sign it for you.
Yeah, let me find out about some more T-shirt guys, man. I need some more T-shirts. So some T-shirt guys, let me know.
Yeah.
Oh, we getting some more comments in before G starts it off. Let me just I want to thank S. Dot Gray. Somebody's frat in here. Appreciate it. Check out the Black Dad Frat tees. Oh, my man. Somebody just sent me over for some T-shirts. So I
Nice.
appreciate that, Mr. Gray.
Nice.
And David, where can we before we close out? Where can we find your book, brother?
DareToBeKing.net. That's one of them. That's Gabe and his green thumb.
He's a farmer, man.
He's a farmer. You got Khalil. You got this story set in Brooklyn. So just go to my website, man.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's an awkward silence moment.
Not that bad. They get to see our smiling faces as we close out. And G's ready. Check us out.
Even though you might not be optimistic, is awesome. I did have moments with him that it was either one way or the other. It was these little special moments that I'm sure he never would think about because it would just seem like it was a blip in time, a regular day. It may have seemed insignificant to him, but it was, everything to me.
I ask you a question. How come you ain't never liked me?
Like? Who the hell said I got to like you?
It's my responsibility. A man is supposed to take care of his family. Now, don't you go through life worrying about whether somebody likes you or not. You best be making sure they're doing right by you.
Ain't no saint either. I'm just a man with taint to ether. I used to eat the seeds out my mom's reefer. My father had a yellow Camaro, 2 seats, a 38 snub, snug in the console between us riding shotgun. Behind me on the floor, a shotgun. How you robbing gas stations with your young son? Damn, dad, seems our carbon. Copy genealogy, no apology, I'm still a part of them. Know why? Know why? Know why? I look just like you, walk home just like you. You ain't shit, I ain't shit. Repeat cycle. Now I'm looking at my son, scanning all his vitals, praying, please don't let him inherit the title I did just before the crack era. Watch my cousin sniff coke off a cracked mirror. Sometimes I feel as if I'm a cross bearer, but I get to survive the Reagan era surprise. We believe all the fairy tale bliss when our heart is shaped more like a fist and not like this. Salute to all the Vietnam vets with heroin tracks turned rhinos, decorating neighborhood steps. You stolen, drowning in grief and regret. We owe them, show some respect.
Can't fight the feeling there.
I be the jack of all trades, master of none, father of one, spawn of 2 Africans who gave up 3 children to be raised by Caucasians. My first lesson in colonialism. My father been missing, 13, living here in the States with him.
I don't want you to have any friends that are African American.
He was that type controlling, so much that who I am today isn't intentional who I want to be, but the result of me not wanting to be anything like him. That's a different type of puppet string action. Will my son grow from my inspirations, or is it the blood system that I have us recycling? My father Nigerian, 4 marriages, 4 divorces, still blames all the women he was damaging. That's a sociopath way of thinking, when everyone's disposable, even his own offsprings, discarding us like we're still in the condom he's flushing. And I'm condescending, not thinking I'm any better, just bitter at my own upbringing, not wanting to infect my own son with the fears and insecurities I was molded from. I hope those energies didn't seep in while we were conceiving him, while I was at war with his mom, because our love wasn't as strong as our lust, and our lust wasn't as great as our dysfunction. So I failed at showing him an example of a loving union. But I'm trying to show him love when frustrations are upon us, especially when he doesn't meet my standards. When thinking about my own father, inconvenienced by commitments, solely focused on personal pleasures, not even real happiness. I've grown, denying myself pleasures, believing I don't deserve anything I haven't earned, treating my life as a sacrifice for the bridges between my father and I that was never built to burn. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but just look at me. I'm so far away, I'm on the other side, close by, and that's all I seem to ever see.